seen that look. Your eyes are doing a tango, man. Why don't you butter? I don't care. Don't mess with me, Myron. I'm from your neighborhood, remember? You want to mess with that crap, you do it on home ground, brother. But
we are talking the Tour of Duty episode Blood Brothers. And so this is one of these episodes that has kind of like an A and B storyline. So I guess our main storyline here is that we have the introduction of soldiers using heroin in the Vietnam War. So we have this new recruit, and he's only been out like a handful of times, and he's kind of like Puerto Rican, I think the same as Ruiz. So he kind of has an affinity for him and kind of tries to look after him to a certain degree. But he's taking heroin whilst he's out on missions and ends up getting killed through a tripwire. And Ruiz takes it quite badly, whilst the other kind of like the men are kind of like, well, he was kind of like a loose cannon, etc. But because Ruiz is kind of somewhat disturbed about it, he ends up kind of having a few days with this kind of like supply sergeant, and as the kind of the episode goes on, we learn that there may well be illegal stuff going on that involves this kind of supply sergeant, along with the kind of like the local gangsters. On top of that, in our kind of our B storyline, we have Lieutenant Goldman's father, General Goldman, John Cypher, I think the actor's name is. He kind of makes an appearance, and he's like a World War II kind of hero. And Lieutenant Goldman feels like he's detached from his kind of like his family, and he kind of blames him for the death of his mother, and is never good enough in his eyes. And then General Goldman is kind of very much a business. He says in the episode he's always going to put the army first before his family, and they have to accept that. And it's really the dynamic between the General Goldman's kind of attitudes towards how maybe the World War II kind of like style of kind of war, and what he believes from that, compared to Lieutenant Goldman's more kind of like different opinion in regards to how war is kind of fought now, well, in the Vietnam era at least, and how maybe the rules of war have changed and how things aren't the same, and kind of this old guard version of how looking at things is not applicable to the kind of like modern warfare, at least in the time frame where this was set. So that is your kind of your A and B storylines. I don't think this is one of the strongest episodes, personally speaking. The scenes with the kind of the gangsters I actually felt were quite weak, and they just didn't feel authentic at all. I mean, Ruiz is captured for a point film for these gangsters, and they keep him alive for no other reason than to kind of have him be rescued by the kind of the rest of the squad later on in the kind of the episode. And it's just like he would have been dealt with kind of straight away. There was no reason for him to be kind of like kept alive, which I thought was a little bit kind of like silly to a certain degree. I actually quite like the chemistry between the two Goldman characters. I thought that was quite good. I will say that, but that's relatively minor part of the story. Although we will see more of obviously Goldman or Goldman Senior through the kind of the rest of this series. And this is kind of like the taste of maybe what's to come. Yeah, I mean, to me this was a kind of a fairly average episode. It wasn't particularly exciting. I didn't really kind of like buy the kind of like the gangster thing. They just seemed a little bit too small. The shootout at the end was a little bit too sort of like people running out into the open and getting shot down far too easily, and the whole kind of infrastructure with this kind of like this these kind of gangsters and stuff was just a little bit kind of like just not particularly believable. I mean, it's important to obviously look at the drug problem that was in the kind of the Vietnam era at this time, and obviously the kind of the servicemen that were there, and that part, the beginning part of the episode where we do have them out in the bush and this guy's kind of like tripping out and stuff, I actually thought was quite good. But I thought the second half of this episode was relatively weak. So I'll give this one a 6 out of 10. It was just okay. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.